So thanks again.
Thank you. Commissioner Moody, you have point of order, point of personal privilege.
Well, in keeping with the spirit of bringing us together as a community, as Military City USA, and also thanking those who've given to our county, I just wanted to acknowledge, I don't believe they're here today, but Calvin Henry and then Austin Craig Harris from our Bexar County Military and Veteran Services, they recently went to the Texas Veterans Commission Conference, and Calvin Henry was recognized as the Supervisor of the Year for the state of Texas, and Austin Craig Harris received the Top Veteran Service Officer Award for the state of Texas. So I know they're not here, but let's give them a round of applause.
Well, Commissioner Moody, let me just say that's the reason why Calvin Henry should be here, because he would have gotten recognized and an opportunity to speak. But nonetheless, you have the floor. Sorry for that interruption.
No, we have a great team over there that does a lot of work for our veterans here in our community, and I know they'll continue to do that, but we just wanted to highlight some of the awards that they were able to take home from the Veterans Conference that they recently attended. Thank you, Judge.
All right, let's continue the business of the county today. We got a lot of work to do. Item 3, request the Commissioners Court to identify items
And one of the, I guess, recent headlines the last few years, particularly with respect to the lack of resources for those in CPS care. You had kids sleeping in office buildings and office spaces. This is something that will help address some of those more acute needs. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask those questions. I know it's obvious to some of us who've worked in this space, but for those that don't, and maybe just read about, the crisis that's happening. These are individuals, families, young people who right now may be serviced by the children's shelter or some other provider. But again, and as someone that long ago was on the board of the children's shelter, those are folks in our community who work every day to put themselves out of business because they would hope that there's not a need for it, but there's always going to be a need when you have the type of deficiencies we have in our community with respect to housing and poverty. Certainly the substance and mental health issues that you underscored are a common denominator oftentimes. And so I think it also highlights the fact that we've got work to do with respect to some of those core supportive services that a lot of folks in our community need. So I know this is kind of just the beginning of the hard work. We appreciate your work on this, Barbara, Yolanda. Thank you for stepping up. Sheriff and law enforcement, I know you're already doing a lot of this work out there at Child Safe and other places. So let us know what you need in terms of resources too to continue to make sure we are hopefully more proactive in preventing before it gets to law enforcement and to that need. We have a lot of folks in our community, I think, that want to be helpful. So thank you for your work on this, Judge. I'm happy to be supportive.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Judge. Definitely supportive of the goal here, but do have some questions and a couple concerns. When the 1.6 million, that is what has been dedicated in the past to paying the CPS portion, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we haven't issued an RFP at this point, right?
No,
This is directing staff to go out and see what a proposal would be. So are we going to be directive in that RFP in terms of, is this a fee for services, the number of children, the number of bed nights that are being provided, or is it based on a current amount of staffing with a set capacity? Do we kind of know what that would be? Because obviously it could be a lot less than 1.6 million. It could be more than 1.6 million. Do we have a sense of that?
No, sir, not right. I'm sorry.
I'm going to object into this question. This is an issue dealing with legal issues and the requirements that the county have in these particular situations, and I do not wish to bind the staff with any statements that we're not prepared to answer today. Larry, could I have your weigh in as far as my objection to the form of the question?
So, Judge, I think part of the direction that staff is going to bring back the procurement method, I think I heard RFP. Staff has not decided that there's going to be the mechanism that is going to be recommended to the court. It may be there are other mechanisms that we might use to select a vendor that are perfectly available, so it may not be competitively procured, and I don't want the court to have that impression. It's for the court to decide, but we're going to bring back some potential options at a later date.
Okay.
So I still don't understand the objection then.
Is that I think you were talking about an RFP, but that issue has not been decided at this point, so I don't want you to have the impression that an RFP is the actual selection method. That has not been decided. I think Barbara's going to bring back methods. That's part of the direction, is that she will bring back a procurement method as part of the recommendation for the court. And it may or may not be an RFP. If that's what the court decides, that's fine, but I don't want the court to be under the impression.
Well, no issue with the RFP. That was just referring to how we're going to solicit. The real question...
My objection is that it's not right for discussion.
Okay, then I won't use the term RFP. But the point that I was trying to get at is that clearly there's different structures in how we would look at contracts and proposals from potential vendors and trying to understand like how we scale that, structure that in a way, whether that's based on individual children's service, total number of nights, or total capacity of a facility.
Commissioner.
Well, I don't understand the objection.
Well, objection is, I am objecting that it deals with legal consultation. If you want to have this conversation, I will put this on executive session and we can have a full throated conversation on the questions you wish to ask, but not now.
Is that an appeal to parliamentarian on the objection?
Objection is noted. I'm ruling you out of order. Let's move on. Ask your next question.
Okay. My point just being we should be thoughtful about how we structure that and how we solicit that in order to ensure that we're thinking about the cost long term for the county.
Yes, sir.
But I'm still finishing, sorry. So do we know whether this is based on operational costs alone or capital costs and operational costs, or is that unknown, or is that going to be objectionable?
If you can answer it.
Yes, I can. It'll likely be both, sir. A mixture of programmatic and the operational and costs that will need to run the nursery.
Okay. And I saw a lot of data here talking about the reasons for use of the crisis nursery, but not a lot in terms of the length of stay. Do we have any data on that in terms of how often, are these overnights versus a few hours versus days versus weeks? I don't know. Are there constraints on that front?
At this time, no. Nationally, most are within a few days, and some maybe a couple of weeks, depending on if a parent voluntarily enters detox, for example, and they have to stay for a week, then that child would stay for a week. So based on the need and the reason they're coming in would be the length of stay.
Okay. And the goal here between the CPS versus the crisis nursery, what are the benefits, I guess, in transitioning away from the CPS services versus the crisis nursery? Is it the flexibility that's there, or is it what?
The CPS funding that we allocated to CPS was for caseworkers, for salary and benefits. And so what we decided to do was to push back and say, state, you need to cover your own employees, and we're going to reprogram this to continue to protect children and families, but in a different way. So the state has picked up those positions, they're paying for them, and so this allows us to innovate and put something together for the community, not just child welfare, but for those experiencing some type of crisis within their family. Does that answer your question, sir?
So additional flexibility, I think, in the utilization. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Well, let me just bring one last concern as I was flipping through here. Some of the items mentioned, right, when it comes to law enforcement, when it comes to who could place a child, right? Sorry. Trying to remember which slide it was on. Hospital, law enforcement, courts, nonprofit partners, or community self-referrals.
Yes, sir.
So, obviously, I think the biggest concern question would be around community self-referrals. If you go back to slide 9, missed school, work, or job opportunity, 9%. You go back to slide 7, education, 3%. Parenting difficulties, 16%, self-care, 26%, employment, 29%. My concern is just that those things can apply very broadly to hundreds of thousands of parents. And as many of us probably here can attest to, having been parents, right? Like, how do we not get overwhelmed and get in mission creep into, like, child care services versus this is a true crisis nursery, and we are screening to ensure that we are not being utilized in the wrong way.
Yes, sir. And I think that will be one of the criteria that we look like. This is a voluntary 24-hour operation for emergency crises, not something that could be referred or handled from 8 to 5 by a nonprofit or a family that could, get on the housing list. You've got evicted, and now the kids have nowhere else safe to stay. I've seen that before where parents were like, we'll stay in my car, but I don't want my kids to live there. So until I can finalize and.
Excuse me, Ms. Schaefer. Commissioner, let me add to that. In light of my experience and expertise, the previous court, and I'm not passing judgment on the previous court.
I do have a comment about the previous court.
But the commitment to family-based service workers, giving money to CPS, was total mission creep. The county created its own CPS caseworker units that was accountable to the county. So I understand, I respect your comment to Ms. Schaefer, but I'm also giving you background as to why we are addressing that specific issue. We are moving away totally from mission creep, and we are empowering parents who want help and don't have to turn to CPS. Is that a correct statement, Ms. Schaefer?
Yes, sir.
And is that based on my experience and your experience from Children's Court?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the background there. I think the concern still would exist when it comes to screening and making sure that we're utilizing the crisis nursery. The right people are getting the services they need, and it's not being abused
Yes.
by bad actors.
Agreed.
Right, and that's my biggest concern. I'm going to reserve judgment until we see the actual proposal and everything, but I think
Okay.
that should just be, front and center as we're thinking about going forward and how we can ensure that doesn't become a problem.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to, one of your concerns, Commissioner Moody, so in reference to the previous court, since I got here in 2021, and every year when this item came, do you remember, Barbara? I
Yes,
questioned.
sir. Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Why? It's okay. I'm in a man's world. Why are we paying for CPS casework? I kept questioning that.
Yes.
And I was like, if we take it away, CPS will cover it. And so I applaud Judge Sakai for finally doing that. So I won't have the same question every year. And so with that, again, it's not impacting our bottom line.
No, ma'am.
And we are using that funds to directly help support prevention.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think, I'm like, why didn't we do this before, right? I mean, and I also want to ask Ms. Valenzuela if she wants to come forward and say a few words. So you are really one of the local experts, not just locally. I know you've traveled to speak at different things, working with CASA, working with Child Welfare Board. So do you have anything that you want to add?
If I may, Commissioner Calvert asks for permission. Commissioner Calvert, you have the floor, then I'll go to Yolanda and the sheriff for comment. Commissioner Calvert?
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, Barbara, and Yolanda. Thank you so much for bringing this to us. This is a very good thing. So looking at slide 13, I'm going to infer that there may be a universe of approximately 1,000 potential folks and children who would utilize this. Is that a safe assumption, or?
I would say less than.
Okay,
Yes.
sure. I agree with you. It's less than, but the universe is somewhere
Yes.
1,000 or under. Okay.
Yes.
So talk to me about because this is new to me. It's not my area of expertise. What are some of the benchmarks in terms of these types of, or benchmark locations where these types of nurseries are doing well?
The ones that we've studied and I've done site visits with, their benchmarks are resolving the crisis, the amount of days it takes to do that, connecting those families with the right resources, because sometimes people just get into the wrong space and they don't come back for help. So we want to make sure that we can make that connection, and it's real and it's positive and it's really impactful to the family.
But where are these? I mean, where are these?
Oh, St. Louis, I did Cleveland, there's California. We would be the first in Texas.
Talk to me a little bit about what are some of the local charities that may, or entities that may want to participate in this particular opportunity?
I haven't directly solicited or spoke to several funding sources, but the Nagin Foundation, Kronkowski, the Kim Repair Foundation have always been such excellent supporters of child welfare initiatives that we'll be speaking to them so that there's continued funding for the project later on.
But I mean, the social service entities, I think most of those are foundations that don't do direct services. Who might be the universe of direct service providers who would open a nursery like this?
I would think probably the children's shelter. I think maybe the respite center, those kind of people that are a little bit already in the space.
Well, I think that helps me just kind of have a little bit more background. It does sound like a very important gap that we're filling. So thank you for getting us, and Judge, thank you for helping to move this forward. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yolanda. Sheriff, I would have called you, but Yolanda got called. Okay? Yolanda, you got the floor.
I have been fighting child abuse for about 25 years now. I was with CASA for 15 years as a vice president, and I was on a child welfare board when you were one of our members for 14 years, 16 years.
And about to be put back on. I think it's on the next agenda.
To be on the child welfare board. I think to answer some of Grant's questions, this is before it gets to CPS. This is prevention. This is before family-based. This is before motion to participate. This is before that. It's catching the issues prior. And once she starts getting those families coming in, you know how word of mouth is. This crisis nursery exists for this particular reason. They won't be afraid to walk in saying Child Protective Services is going to rip our kids from us. We need some help right now with this, that, and the other. We're stressing out because right now the stressors, and I get phone calls, the man and the woman want to kill each other because they need clothes and shoes and everything for 4 kids, school supplies. It gets July is stressor time for these parents. And so it's just decreasing those stressors, preventing them from getting in the Child Protective Service system, because once you get in the Child Protective Service system, even in family base, which is what the county paid for, it's hard. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to get back out, right? And so when I was on the Child Welfare Board, we started researching this, but it didn't look like there was funding, and then the talk stopped. And so it's highly needed in this community. I think Bexar County has some of the highest need because of the child abuse and neglect that exists, which is the majority of child abuse that takes place. It's the neglect. It's not the sexual abuse. It's not the medical neglect. It's the regular old neglect. We need this, that, and the other. We need counseling. The wraparound services are going to be tremendously important for these families because they don't know where to go. I could tell you a lot of places to go. Tommy will tell you, I know all the agencies, Justin also. But I'm in my home. These families don't know these agencies, right? And if they walk in, even to get 2 hours, 1 day, whatever, they're going to walk away with a big old list of wraparound services. You need school supplies, you need baby formula, you need mental health treatment, you need domestic violence. They're going to walk away with that. It's a win-win. It's an investment in my mind. I wasn't here to speak, but that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Sheriff.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. I could just attest to the fact as a career first responder that those who are most affected by all of these situations, domestic violence situations, crisis situations, the most affected are the kids. And unfortunately, they're also the least in control of the situation. And so also as a first responder, I can attest to the fact that that's a very frustrating situation for a first responder to be in that situation where you know you've got to take care of this kid. You know that the emergency room isn't the best place to leave them. You know that the backseat of your patrol car is not the best place to change a diaper. You know that taking up a collection from your fellow officers to buy formula, baby food, diapers, whatever it is that that child needs in that moment isn't the most ideal situation, but it's all we got. And as first responders, we do what we have to do to find the happy ending, or as happy of an ending as you can find in that situation. So absolutely, I'm in full support of this, and anything that I can do or the men and women of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office can do to support this endeavor, we're on board with it.
So, Sheriff, I want to appreciate Commissioner Moody's comments, because it's important that the focus of this project in regards to if there is any debate over whether the county should invest in this program, isn't this mission clarity to get law enforcement, specifically deputies, out of the social work that they have to do when they come to a scene? Because
Yes,
unless CPS is there or social services there, then, and isn't that really the essence? What's our, is it STAR program, the mental health program, that we bring mental health experts to a crime scene?
Smart. Yes.
Excuse me. That Dr. Guerrero's SMART program that she works with you, isn't it that an extent? This program is an extension of that directive to what, instead of calling mission creep, this would be mission clarity to get deputies out of social work, bring those children into a wraparound services that Ms. Valenzuela has expertise on as to what they're provided. Is that what you see with this program? Because I agree, from accountability purposes, are we just creating another social service department of the county? And is it really going to be effective? From your experience on the ground, first responders dealing with the families in their most urgent, exigent circumstance, is this program needed?
Absolutely, and it solves a lot more problems than it could ever create.
Thank you.
I have just a final comment. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to Google this. A couple months ago in May, there was a woman from the Valley, came up to San Antonio. Her kids were burned. Her 2 little boys were burned alive in her vehicle. So if someone doesn't think that we need this program for situations like that, maybe if this was already in place, maybe when I had continued to question, why are we using this money for CPS? We had started this program earlier. Maybe that woman could have dropped her kids off, and those 2 little boys could have grown up to be contributing members of South Texas. And that's what we're talking about. 2 little boys were burned in their car. And I just need you to sit with that and imagine what must have been going on through a woman who gave birth to children and then did that. What kind of demons does she have in her head? That's why this program's important. Thank you for doing the hard work that we need done every day.
Any further comment? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, by Commissioner Clay Flores, second by Commissioner Rodriguez, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. I want to report for the next meeting, Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Got it?
Thank you.
Okay. With the court's permission, I want to advance and bring up an item out of order. I'm alerting the court, subject to objection. I'd like to take up item number 68. 68. It is a late file. Could I have a motion in order that we do it now to consider all late file motions under 65, 66, 67, 68?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Rodriguez.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Clay Flores. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. I will now call up discussion and appropriate action regarding approval of the letter amendment to the non-relocation agreement between Bexar County and the San Antonio Spurs, amending the non-relocation agreement to authorize the San Antonio Spurs to play up to 4 regular season home games, including playoffs, outside the Frost Bank Center during each of the 26, 27, 27, 28 NBA seasons, and ratifying and reaffirming all remaining terms and conditions of the agreement. But at this time, I do have citizens to be heard, and I'm taking you out of order so that you're not having to wait till this afternoon or to the citizens to be heard. I'm going to allow, I've got 3 signed up for 68, and you have 3 minutes. Rebecca Flores, you have the floor. And then I have Elaine Cummings, and then I have Susan Strong.
I think she walked out.
Rebecca, then what about Elaine Cummings or Susan Strong? And on Lane, you have yielded your time. You can come up with Susan, but you have yielded your time to Susan Strong? Or do you wish to take back any time? All right. I will allow Susan Strong to proceed at this time.
Good morning, Judge Sakai, and good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for moving this up. Really appreciate getting the rest of my day back. So I am here to speak against this amendment or this motion. I'm concerned that you're being asked to amend a public contract, giving up a valuable public right without any meaningful analysis of the cost to Bexar County taxpayers, workers, and businesses. And what troubles me most is not the number of games that the Spurs want to move out of the city. It's that there appears to have been no effort whatsoever to determine the value of what the county is giving up or to negotiate compensation for it. That is not how governments are supposed to negotiate on behalf of their constituents. The agenda states that this item has no fiscal impact. That is not correct. The county may lose only a modest amount of hotel occupancy tax if games are moved, but it does lose hotel tax revenue. Stone Planning, who is the Spurs' own consultant, who performed the only economic analysis for the new arena, estimated that Spurs games at the Frost Bank Center and other events generate approximately 21,000 hotel room nights each year. That produces hotel occupancy taxes that pay for this arena. More importantly, the fiscal impact statement ignores the much larger impact on Bexar County residents, most of whom live in the city of San Antonio. Using the Spurs' own economic study, each home game represents roughly $3.8 million in direct local spending. For 4 games, that's $15.1 million. Total net spending per game is estimated at $5.5 million per game, or $22 million for the 4 games. That spending supports arena employees, concessions workers, security officers, parking attendants, custodians, restaurants, bars, hotels, rideshare drivers, vendors, and people on the east side who sell off-site parking, the only benefit that they've ever gotten from the promised development around this arena. It also generates local sales taxes that support city services via Ready to Work and Pre-K 4SA, and those may be city revenues, but they benefit the same Bexar County residents that the court represents. The Spurs are asking for authority to relocate up to 4 home games each season. That's 10% of their regular home schedule. So that's 10% of the income of arena workers that is being lost by them moving out of the city. So if the home games generate jobs and economic activity, that's fewer work opportunities for hourly employees, fewer customers for neighborhood businesses, fewer local tax revenues. And these losses are concentrated on working families and small businesses, while the benefits from this move flow elsewhere without any compensation. Every relocated game means local sales tax revenue that is no longer generated in San Antonio. There is fiscal impact from allowing this, and it's not due diligence to claim otherwise. So before giving away negotiated public rights, this court should know what local tax revenues will be lost, how many work hours and wages will be lost by arena employees and local businesses, what is the impact on hotel occupancy taxes that finance this arena still, and what compensation, if any, is Bexar County receiving in exchange for giving up these rights. I spent 26 years negotiating deals on behalf of the United States. In all of that time, I never saw a government agree to surrender a valuable contractual right without first determining its value and negotiating appropriate compensation. Bexar County residents deserve representation, not hostages suffering from Stockholm Syndrome that they're going to leave. There are all sorts of things to be negotiated here. You could demand that the Spurs pay the arena workers for the missed games, make the county and city whole for lost tax revenue, make the off-site parking operators whole, negotiate that the game move to be a less profitable game. You could even negotiate a rent increase. The current rent was negotiated in 2002 and has never been raised, and it's not adjusted for inflation. That's equivalent to $644,000 today. That's a little over a quarter of 25% of a single game gate receipts that we're losing sales taxes on. I respectfully ask that you postpone this item until the county prepares a transparent fiscal and economic analysis and negotiates fair consideration for this deal like any business partner would. Respectfully, I believe this is your job. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Come back into the court. Rebecca Flores. Rebecca Flores. If she shows, we'll allow her to speak. I went out of order in order to bring up 68. So at this time, who's making the presentation? Commissioner Rodriguez?
Not a presentation, Judge, but I wanted to ask Bobby Perez from Spurs to come up. You heard some of the concerns, Bobby. I also wanted to ask you to reset a little bit the discussion with respect to how we got here, because I think this is a kind of really just an amendment to what the previous agreement looked like. I think initially a few years ago it was for a game in Austin, and then obviously the international games came into play. I want to say because of the Spurs' outstanding history in helping expand globally, but it may have something to do with number one on the court as well and his presence. So if you could, because I think what you're asking from us today is not a significant departure than what we've done over the past couple years to kind of help the Spurs expand market in different, whether it's Austin, whether it's international. So if you can just kind of reset the discussion a little bit so we're all on the same page, that would be helpful.
Commissioner, thank you. Members of the court, Judge. For your record, Bobby Perez, San Antonio Spurs. I will address Ms. Strawn's comments because she's missed, but I'll follow up with that and tell you why. So if we go back, probably 2021 was the first time that we came to this court. It was a different court in 2021, and we first presented this item. The request was twofold. Allow the Spurs to play 4 games outside of their market, outside of their home arena, the Frost Bank Center. And the court agreed, and the caveats were 2. 1, within 75 miles, you can play 2 games. 2, the other 2 games could be international. So since that time, if we backtrack, last year we played 2 games out of the Frost Bank Center. The year before that, 3 games, and the year before that, 3 games. So there's never been more than 4, point number 1. And the 75 miles is a league rule. It's an NBA rule. That is our territory, and that's what we use. But that allowed the Austin games and then the international games. What we have seen going forward, and thank you to the court, the sheriff was here earlier, all the Bexar County sheriffs. This playoff run, we had an additional 23 games at the end of the season. Our season didn't end on April 15th. Unfortunately, it ended the first week of June, not the way we would have liked to. But very proud of our relationship with the county, the Coliseum Advisory Board, all the county sheriffs who really showed all those fans from New York how we treat people and how San Antonio does it the right way. Commissioner Clay Flores earlier talked about how sport and our brand really unified our community, and that was a really great example of that. The point being, Commissioner, as we have evolved and we continue to evolve as a brand, a couple of data points. this last playoff run, just from a television market side, was the highest viewed NBA Finals series since 1998. And that put San Antonio in the spotlight for that period of time. The social media views, the number is staggering, 15 billion views, focusing, of course, the team we played, but also San Antonio, everything San Antonio has to offer, and the San Antonio Riverwalk. The dollar value, and Stone Planning is our consultant. We hired Mr. Stone to do an economic impact analysis. And I'll call out the first thing that Ms. Strawn missed is that scope of work was done within the last 3 years that counted lesser games at the Frost Bank Center for the last 3 years. And she did not recognize that, but I wanted to make sure that the court knew it. And that economic impact analysis posted online and for the public to see, and has been for at least a year. The other point that we wanted to kind of just call out in response to what she is saying is she missed the extra probably 10 to 12 home games as a result of this last playoff run, which was not insignificant for the community, all our staff, the cost of services. You're in budget cycle right now and you're looking at that every day. All the additional sheriff's employees and staff, all our staff, that's all at our expense. That's not on the county expense. That agreement is set up that all the additional operational expenses belong to the San Antonio Spurs and not the citizens of San Antonio or Bexar County. So just a couple of those highlights. Back to your question, Commissioner. The court allowed 4 games with those 2 caveats in 21, renewed again in 23 when this court was convened, and we're asking for renewal again. Yeah. The distinction is removing the 75 games in the international piece. It's been reported that this is an increase in games. It's not. It's still 4 games. The item is captioned. It only applies to regular season games, so not playoff games. And it's basically reauthorizing what this court has already authorized on several other occasions.
So in a case, thank you for that, Bobby. In a case like this coming season, for example, the flexibility for the Spurs to play up to 4 games, again, it's not guaranteeing that, but it's up to, in this case, when the Spurs, for example, are gone during the rodeo road trip, it allows you to work with the NBA schedulers to potentially do a game or 2 in Austin during that time. So in a sense, breaks up that road trip. And then the other thing that's occurring, I think, this next season is 2 games in Europe, one in France and one in, I think, the UK or nearby, somewhere there. So I guess as you move forward and you work with the NBA, that's what the flexibility provides you, is to work with the schedulers on filling those gaps, whether it's during the rodeo road trip or those international opportunities, which I think, my sense is, from what I read, the NBA is making a concerted effort to potentially expand or have maybe a sister league in those areas. So I think to your point, and I'm pointing this out because it's again, it's been reported that you're increasing the number of games, or we're giving you permission to increase the number of games, but it's actually up to the same number. I want to make that clear. And it's for the next 2 seasons. Right. Obviously, and I respect Susan. She's a constituent of mine. I always appreciate listening to her. Great neighbor in River Road. I think we're going to have an opportunity, as we all know, with the discussion on the potential new arena, to kind of hit the reset and figure out what is the path forward look like. But again, this is short term. It's the next 2 years. And again, it's essentially in line with what we've approved over the past few seasons.
That is correct. Okay. That is correct. And I just would comment on the competition piece. That's not insignificant. We are required to move out of the building for 30 days. And the opportunity to play games in Austin, Texas, are able to help us manage the schedule from a competition standpoint. It proved some big benefit this season.
Yeah. And I remember being on the court back in 21 when we did the initial agreement, the calls and emails we got about the Spurs kind of inching into the Austin area and the threat that potentially would cause, I would hope that at this point that is quieted down and there's a commitment, and it's not just through what the voters approved in the venue tax, but also what the city's doing, also what the Spurs ownership has committed to, and that is staying in San Antonio at least for the next 50 years, because I know we just celebrated 50 a few years ago. So I just wanted to make sure that we kind of level set a little bit. I understand the concerns, but I also think the costs outweigh those concerns. Excuse me, the benefits outweigh the concerns in terms of making sure that from a scheduling standpoint you can remain competitive, but also that our fans and our community get what's best here in San Antonio out of our Spurs. And I think it's a two-way street. So, Judge, I know my other colleagues have some questions. I want to go ahead and make a motion to approve this.
Second, if I have comments.
Rodriguez, second by Commissioner Clay Flores. Commissioner Clay Flores, you have the floor.
So I am supporting this because it's not a change. It's still the 4 games. And as you and I have talked about before, Bobby, this is also about international branding. With international branding, it makes the Spurs bigger and makes more people want to come to San Antonio and spend their money here. And of course, they come spend their money, as you mentioned, the hotel taxes and all that. And so this is about more visibility. This is about marketing. This is about more branding. So I'm happy to support it. And like I said earlier, during the playoffs and the finals, it was just so wonderful to see this county come together. And lately, there's not a lot of stuff that brings people together. But the Spurs did that. And so for me, that's worth it. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Just briefly, I think it's kind of been said at this point, but just reiterating the point that it was 4 games before, it's 4 games in the amendment, and so that fact means that the amendment is tax revenue neutral. It is Frost Bank Center employee income neutral. And that doesn't take into account all the additional playoff games and hours that were able to be worked there. So I'm supportive. I think providing that additional flexibility has no impact whatsoever on tax revenue for the county, and appreciate the great season you guys had.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you very much. Bobby, I want to. I didn't understand your first point of clarification on the facts as presented by Mrs. Strom. Can you say that one more time? I just want to make sure I hear you correctly.
Thanks, Commissioner. I probably wasn't very clear. David Stone was a consultant we hired to help the public discussions on the election cycle. And Mr. Stone did an economic impact analysis on the number of the games at the arena and their impact locally. He took the last 3 years. And the last 3 years, this amendment was in place. And so Mrs. Strawn's argument was, hey, you're costing the community money, but she's actually incorrect because that was factored in Mr. Stone's report.
Well, I think okay, thank you very much for the clarity. I think that it's hard for me as a numbers guy to argue that there isn't economic impact on folks who are hired and other ancillary economic folks. I mean, I think that does need to be looked at. This amendment started at a time when, just to be frank, we didn't have Wemby. We weren't as strong of a team. I don't know if it had anything to do, it probably did, with the negotiations between Austin and San Antonio, but let's just say that it was a time that was different for the Spurs since we had so many winning seasons, and the team was looking for an opportunity to expand market share. Now, I think that we are now at the top of the most watched teams in the league. I think Wemby's jersey is amongst the top, and we are, as you just mentioned, in the 15 billion range. Aren't we like the most watched team now?
It's been exciting this year, yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't know if we are, but the numbers are pretty high, so we're up there for sure.
So it's harder for us to make an argument that it's about expansion of market. I mean, you can certainly expand by being in theater, if you will, or being abroad. How many does every NBA team do such an agreement so that, for example, if they're playing in Mexico City or Paris or whatever, that there's the flexibility? How does this work for other NBA franchises?
I can't speak to, everybody has a different agreement with their local municipalities or how their structure is set up with their counties. But NBA teams this summer, teams will play or this fall will play in Mexico City. The commissioner announced we will play a home game in Paris, France, and a road game in London. And there's probably about 5 other teams, so I believe it's different for all teams.
So every team has some sort of clause as well, I guess, to, I mean, it's something to look into in terms of what those clauses are so that there's flexibility. So that's something I'd like to look at. We'll just start with the teams that have been in international games before, because obviously they had to have some sort of amendment to their contracts. I'm assuming, with the exception of L.A., I think L.A., is their arena not 100% privately financed? So it may not matter.
The Los Angeles Clippers is 100% privately financed.
Okay.
The Los Angeles Lakers share a facility with a few other teams.
Okay, so
not owned by the team, operated by the team.
In the case of the Clippers, they're not in a municipal or county arrangement. Okay, so it's hard for me to ignore community impact. I mean, that's why I'm here, is to try to make an impact on the community. And I think it is a fair conversation that more folks in our community are having about what is our benefit, what is our community return. As you know, I have said with pride that I had watched the Spurs literally when I was on the Sea of Galilee, or when I was at one of the National Committee for U.S.-China Relations meetings in Chengdu, China. I couldn't believe that the Spurs were playing on CCTV. It was mind-boggling to me, to be quite honest. So I think we have accomplished, and I think Coach Popovich has been integral, and your management team have been integral in the internationalization of our team. It's bound not only by the players, but also obviously around the world in terms of viewership. But I do think that when you're talking about such sizable public investments, return and partnership has to be true partnership. And so I don't have all the data in terms of these other arrangements, in terms of some of the impact. I think it deserves research, and we will work to do that research. And so on that note, I don't have any reservation about abstaining on the vote today, because I think that there needs to be a deeper look at the ROI and what are the taxpayers getting in the loss of revenue. And so that will be my vote today. Thank you, Judge.
Well, let me take all these comments together, Bobby, and ask you this question. And it really has been asked. I just want to get clarity from me. In regards to Commissioner Calvert's comments, and I think they're on point, what is the return on investment? Or is that something you have to take back and Judge will get you those numbers? I'm just trying to, in a general way, it's just another handout to the San Antonio Spurs? Or is, as I've heard, do we really have a partnership, Bobby? And if it is, what does the county get out of this particular motion other than all the conversations we've had. Just tell me, what do we get in return? Can you answer that question right now?
Judge, I can give you some concepts that I think address what the commissioner has asked and what you are asking. I think the obligation of any partner with the public or otherwise is to use its brand, to use its employees, to use its staff, to go out and do the right thing. I think when you look at the history of the relationship between Bexar County and the San Antonio Spurs, and I'll just draw a couple of highlights. You know, I think, Commissioner, probably a good point to go back and look, but we're talking about agreements that were developed 28, 29 years ago. The evolution of the agreements and the evolution of commerce has changed dramatically. But if we look at the small woman minority-owned business program that the county and the Spurs partnered in 25 years ago, 28 years ago.
That was the creation of the current Frost Bank.
That's right.
Then AT&T, then SBC Center.
Yes, sir. That dollar number a couple of years ago was $180 million to small entrepreneurs. That continues today. It started off at a very small component, but now runs across all our organization for all our spending, and it's not required that it happens across all our organization. It was only required just at the arena when we had 70 employees when we started. Today we have 500 employees, and we procure businesses all over the place. I would say that is evidence of a partnership and a good deal and an ROI for community. The second thing I would point to is community impact. What we do on the community impact side, and lots of companies do this, we're not special, but we go out every day, and whether there are financial donations to the children of our community, whether it's through youth sports, the 1,000 to 2,000 coaches we train every season for Spurs youth basketball, or the things that we do at our soccer camps, I would say that is ROI, and I would say it's uncalculable. Sitting through the presentation that I just got to hear earlier, I was a member of the Bexar County Child Welfare Board probably 20 years ago, and it was probably one of the hardest volunteer positions I ever had to do. Being on the other side of child and youth impact, I think we create memories. Some things that children will never forget, the spirit and community revelry that Commissioner Clay Flores talked about, people will not forget that. We all have memories of what we did in 1999 or 2007, or what that championship time, or even last month where we were. That is ROI. And yes, as an elected official, you have the obligation to do that, but also as an elected official and community partners, we have the obligation to go out and do the next right thing. And that's what we've been doing for 50 years. And we'll continue to do it for another 50 years.
Thank you. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention. Motion carries.
I forgot to say one thing. Go Spurs, go.
All right. All right, let's get back to the regular agenda items. I believe we went through consent and there were no individuals items pulled, correct, Kate? Oh, Kate, didn't we have a correction to make? Or is that coming up on individual?
That's on individual.
Individual, okay. All right, we'll take up agenda item number 6, filing for the record the following legal and administrative document, directing the Criminal District Attorney's Office to take action if necessary, A through B. 7, approval of the Commissioners Court minutes for Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. Motion by Commissioner Moody. Second by Commissioner Calvert. Any further discussion? All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Communications from citizens to be heard. All right. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up those that have signed up. Now, some have asked for individual, but it may be the afternoon by the time we get to y'all, but if you wish to speak, I will give you an opportunity to speak at this time. 3 minutes. First is Lydia Leos. Lydia, are you here? Lydia Leos? I may well if they come back in, please let me know. I'll try to accommodate them as best I can. Shannon Locke. Shannon Locke. Okay. Antonio Diaz. Antonio Diaz. And then Diana Uriega says yielded to Antonio. Diana, do you wish to yield to Antonio? Where's Diana? No? Okay, she's other shift. How are you? All right. Antonio, buenos días.
Quality Nancy. I'm here to speak on item 64, and that would be on the jail. That is a considerable problem. You're speaking about endangered youth and all that. I guess those would be future detainees or inmates at our county jails, should they survive, if they have all these emotional problems and poverty and lack of opportunity. There are at least double-digit deaths at Bexar County Jail every year. Ms. Villegas and I, with the approval of county commissioners and sheriff and elections office back in 2009, initiated a voter registration drive inside Bexar County Jail in 2009 and 2010, which had never been done before. But that was to get the deputies there, the employees there, and the inmates, the detainees, to see themselves as human beings, to see themselves as citizens with rights, not as animals, not as caged victims, but as equal human beings. Because most have not been convicted. Most have not been to trial. They're simply there because they cannot make bail for one reason or another. And they're treated atrociously. Because to have double digits death every year, some within 24 hours of being there, is atrocious and needs to be addressed. I'm glad the sheriff was here for that chance for infants or small children to be cared for. But to me, that is a prison state that we are creating in the West Side. When it first started, it was going to be a small footprint. Comal Street was still open to the public, all the way from Commerce to Martin. Now you have it all blocked up. It's chained in. There's no public access to Comal Street. It is a prison facility. It is no longer just a county jail. And I see that the footprint is to be increased. You have the two-deuce warehouse marked also to become some sort of jail. That is, again, something that really needs to be looked at in our West Side, becoming just a prison state area.
Time has expired.
6 minutes? Did you add the second one, Kate? Did he finish his 6 minutes? No. You got 3 more minutes, Antonio.
And I also saw that we are sending our detainees or inmates, whichever you want to call, to Kirk County and Burnett County. So more cost to our county so they can be housed there. Somehow it seems that too many people are being arrested, whether it is because of homelessness, houselessness, mental issues, since those clinics and state funding is cut for mental issues. It seems jail is the only housing for an overpopulated county. It's supposed to be over 2 million now and continuing to grow. And I see that I brought this up before, continuing to just allow development to go wild and uncontrolled growth in our county, in our city, is not the way to go. It does not give us more of a higher income from our taxation. It doesn't. We cannot keep up with it. It's just a dog chasing its tail. That's just my comment on that. But deaths at the county jail, and who knows how they're going to be treated at Bernard County, at Kerr County, with only paying $85 per bed there, and how are the people from here going to be able to visit their relatives once moved over there? Should they be actual residents of Bexar County? All these need to be taken into consideration for all these issues, and to those being considered to be another annexation for the jail. It needs to be looked at. Too many deaths is it's an eye-opening situation. Like I said, in 2009, 2010, that was 16 years ago. We went because we had double-digit deaths then. We're trying to get our county deputy sheriffs to look at the detainees, at the arrested people there as human beings, and they themselves to have some inkling that they still have rights even though they're behind bars. And this double court system that is in place for someone that is detained also needs to be looked at. That is, to me, unconstitutional. But it's occurring here in Bexar County. It's occurring here in Texas. And I keep saying it, Texas is one of the most racist states ever constructed, especially the Republic of Texas, which much of its governance is still enforced upon us. Plazo Camate.
Thank you, sir. I think, Lydia, did you get back? Lydia Leos? Why don't you come back? I'm giving you an opportunity to speak at this time. Even though it's an agenda item, if you wish to speak at this time, or otherwise, you're going to have to continue to wait. So if you wish.
Good morning, Judge and County Commissioners. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Lydia Leos, founder of Voices Behind the Cell and co-founder of San Antonio Grieving Mothers Fight for Justice. As the mother of Julian Dena, who was critically injured on July 27, 2020, and passed away on July 30th, 2020 because of organ donation, I have dedicated my life to advocating for families affected by in-custody deaths. I stand here today to ask for greater transparency, accountability, meaningful reforms, and dignity for every person housed in Bexar County Jail. This discussion is about far more than jail overcrowding and facilities. It is about protecting human life. With 130 in-custody deaths during Sheriff Javier Salazar's tenure, community deserves answers. Every person who enters the jail is in the custody and care of the government. The constitutional rights do not end at the jail door. Today, I respectfully ask this court to make jail safety and transparency a priority by supporting the following reforms. Adopt a mandatory family notification policy requiring immediate notification when a person suffers a medical emergency, is hospitalized, or dies while in custody. Preserve all surveillance, video, body camera footage, radio communications, medical records, incident reports following any critical incident. Release public quarterly reports on in-custody deaths, serious medical emergencies, suicide attempts, staffing levels, and corrective actions. Establish a family liaison to communicate with families throughout investigation process. And short-term reforms. Increase medical and mental health staffing to provide 24-hour coverage. Improve officer training in emergency medical response, overdose recognition, suicide prevention, de-escalation, and mental health crisis. Strengthen emergency response policies requiring EMS activation whenever a detainee shows signs of medical distress. Conduct independent audits of detention operations, medical services, and compliance with state jail standards. Long-term reforms. Require independent investigations of every in-custody death and critical incidents. Improve transparency through annual public hearings on jail operations, safety, staffing, and compliance. Expand mental health treatment, diversion programs, and substance use services to reduce unnecessary incarceration and overcrowding, modernize jail facilities while ensuring that any expansion prioritizes safety, medical care, suicide prevention, and humane conditions. As a military city USA, we must not forget our veterans in custody and ensure they receive the care, treatment, and dignity that they deserve. These
Time
are not
has expired.
I'm sorry.
Wrap
These
it
are
up,
not
Lydia.
political issues. These are human issues. Every number represents a son, daughter, mother, father, a brother, sister, or a friend. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you,
day.
Lydia. All right. Let me go back and see if Rebecca Flores, did you return? Rebecca? All right. Pass. Shannon Locke, did you return? Shannon Locke? Shannon Locke? All right. I called your name. All right. Mark Vavadich. And Mark, you have, I note 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll just call their names out, but I think they're all yielding time to you. So Joel Hernandez, Ashley Martinez, Logan Yee, Lloyd Brown, Tyler Foz, Kent Novak, and Paul Guma. Are they yielding all the time to you, Constable?
They are, sir.
All right, you have the floor.
I'm going to dismiss the officers so they can get back to work, clerk.
Please.
You're dismissed, guys. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Basically, just coming back to respond to some questions that came up on a previous discussion. There's no actions today. Trying to fill in some blanks of a request that we had made on the motorcycles in the previous Commissioners Court meeting. First of all, we had a misstatement on my part on the cost, and I wanted to clarify that. Although the cost of vehicles, the Tahoe is still $84,410. That's fully outfitted. Nothing added to it. Motorcycles are at $51,683. That's fully outfitted and equipped. Of course, the maintenance and operations costs were a factor, and that was a question that several people had presented. And we have a 60-month factory warranty on the motorcycles. The operations costs are lower than Tahoe's. That's just not my opinion. If you look at the attachment A, this is basically a chart that shows the cost of the vehicles, and behind that are the actual cost analysis by department provided by Fleet Maintenance for BMW motorcycle units as well as for Tahoes. We provided that so that we would actually have hard data to know that we're talking about the same thing and that we are looking at a savings. The motorcycles are 38% legal costs and initial costs, and they're fully upfitted with the costs that we stated, and 15% lower in the cost per mile for operations. These numbers are derived, again, off of Fleet Maintenance cost analysis. There were some concerns that we had that costs were going to run higher and they needed to be upfitted, and the cost that we have quoted includes those upfitted motorcycles, plus an additional bit of money from our budget to cover some safety supplies that are necessary. The costs in the hearing that we had in the last court session was actually pretty accurate from by Ms. Kinezine. You did a good job on providing the accurate cost right off the top of your head. But we did provide the fleet maintenance costs so that you'd be able to see them. Precinct 3, keep in mind when we were talking about when we make operational decisions in Precinct 3, it's because we see it from the street level and we see what happens on a daily basis and the changes in Precinct 3, and we try to respond to those. We are mindful of the fact that the principles that we abide by include the Bexar County Statement of Financial Policies, Section 41A to D, which in summary establishes the fees and costs that are related to the cost of providing services, pursuing changes by legislative means, and collecting all fines and fees and revenue due to Bexar County. These are not mandated by Precinct 3. They are Bexar County policies, and we institute them. We're not doing anything special. The money that we're talking about currently right now is existing in the Precinct 3 budget. One of the discussions was an assessment for the true cost, and I think those fleet figures show the true cost of these motorcycles on a lifetime costs, including lower maintenance and operations costs, and plus the mentioning. Part of the discussion was from Mr. Robinson on liability and policies related to motorcycles in Bexar County. To a large degree, I think he was correct as he put it back in one of his last comments, that is a decision up to each constable to decide, making an operational decision of how to employ resources. The liability issue is perfectly aligned with the county, but it's not a new thing. We have motorcycles here. The policy is the sheriff's office has for their motors. They've been operating for 20 years. So if there's a policy that needed to be made, I think it would have been done probably 20 years ago. And there's no reason to have a policy to bind constables on their possible use of motorcycles when we are the only precinct that have used them in the past and are asking to use them now. To require us to be in agreement in each constable's office kind of flies in the face of each elected official and the authority that they have to operate their precinct. I understood also that they had concerns that we wanted to look at addressing this during the regular budget. This is not a budget. This is not next budget's discussion today. This is on the operations and the funds that we have in our budget now. There was a comment that was required that we had that they want to know that why we haven't coordinated with other constables and they haven't seen those things. It's not a factor in any way. What other constables have for needs and their needs have no effect on us. Each of us provides a separate budget, and we have those specific needs that we need to have. There's no reason to have a consensus between constables on anything, although I do have 2 letters up here that were listed in your section B from constables in Precinct 2 and Precinct 4 supporting the use by constables in Precinct 3 of motorcycles. They have different needs. We have different needs. We're just trying to get to that point where we're performing the best that we can with the resources we have and offsetting costs to taxpayers and putting those costs back on the people who have violated the law, and the legislature has provided the solution to that, which is fines. There was some good discussion that brought up that what required to appear in their office. Like in Precinct 3, there was a discussion, an out-of-cycle recently, that they needed an investigator for their precinct that was an out-of-cycle request. That was perfectly acceptable, but that's a need that I would not speak to oppose because it's her business and Precinct 2's business. By the way, she needs more staff than what she's got now. She has one of the busiest precincts, Commissioner Rodriguez, and I hope that's addressed coming up in the future. There's also some commissions that they're in the present budget. I don't want to tie my present budget to future requests. Those future requests will all be debated in due time. And we all precincts, all county departments are going to have requests that are going to have an increase or some change. So I don't think it's really applicable to the discussions coming up in the future. Also, one of the commissioners had mentioned that they were asking to develop that policy, and that she had Rebecca Clay Flores was the one who mentioned that she had been talking to her commissioner, her constable, and his chief of staff regarding that they haven't had any discussions on the need for motorcycles or on my issue. I couldn't tell which one she was talking about, whether they were talking about their issue or ours. But again, Precinct 1, Precinct 2, Precinct 4, they're all independent. They have no role in what I do in Precinct 3. That's between me and my lawful use of the expenditure of funds, personnel, and resources. They haven't requested motor units. Why would they have to have a policy that addresses that? It's immaterial for Precinct 3 that I didn't discuss this with Constable Tejeda or any other officials outside of Precinct 3 presenting a budget item to Commissioner's Court. The constables are each the subject matter experts of their precinct, and they should be consulted, and we should be getting back to that period where we have some trust between County Commissioner's Court and the other elected officials that are taking care of the duties and the offices they are elected to. We don't involve ourselves in other precincts. The liability issue for vehicles, the operators, and risk management functions are identical to those motorcycles that Bexar County Sheriff's Office has and has had for 20 years. So I don't really see that a policy is necessary in that area. When we're talking about this so disproportionate effect on a population or certain people, that's a valid concern, and we looked into that as well. You have a copy. Number one, we do a little bit different. If you look at this little flyer, this is what we hand out when we do every traffic citation. This is handed back to them with a copy of the citation and their driver's license, and it gives them a lot of information that they may not have already had about how they can handle the citation, how they can appear in court, what options they have besides paying. We have it in English and Spanish, and we have a fine schedule on the back. We also go back to the fact that of this money that is collected by Bexar County, in the past 3 years, in this current year to date, we've collected $1.6 million in fines this year. Last year it was $20.5 million, $17 million the year prior, and $15.2 million prior to that. About $54 million in that time period for the current court. $54 million, $19 million of that is the part that Bexar County receives. We also have, if that is an issue, we've also watched what the protections are for these citizens who can't afford these costs. We don't make an excuse for, at least I hope we're not making an excuse to commit criminal acts because of poverty or indigency. We have other mechanisms that can be supplied there. In the Class C court that we have in JP court, there's many protections for people who are unable to pay for whatever reason. They can have a payment plan. They can participate in community service. If they are unable to do physical community service or that kind of area, they can provide services. And there's no jail time for these Class C misdemeanors, so we're not going to be populated in jail, and we have alternatives to it. It's one of the very basic tenets of society is that people abide by the lowest level of behavior in a society are laws. Morals can be higher, other things can be moral, but laws are necessary for the society to exist. And it's an implied understanding with everybody participates, whether they're a billionaire or somebody who's down in the poverty level, which we have 14.5% of poverty in Bexar County. I understand that. But we have protections in place for them in the court systems. Bexar County doesn't set the fines. That's set by the state legislature, and it's at the discretion of each of the judges and courts. Basically, the same people that may be disproportionately affected are also within that population that are going to participate in 47,000 crashes per year in Bexar County, 190 plus fatalities, and tens of thousands of serious bodily injuries. So we're protecting everybody by enforcing these laws and trying to reduce those accidents. Those fines and fees are not our choice. They're from the legislature. The same rules apply to a violator, but remember they have these different plans and protections. The judges are looking out. They're required by law to do an indigency viewpoint and check and see if they can afford or cannot afford to pay the fines. And all that goes before anything else. They're not committed to jail. In short, they have operating safeguards for the executive, law enforcement, and judicial sides of these processes and how they work. One example within the court system is using data from FY25 for fines and court costs. JP1 waived $394,000 for indigents. JP2 waived $9,289. JP3 waived $3,589. JP4 waived $26,000. And I don't want to tie the court up, but I do want to kind of go through a quick summary. When we have the item E on the backside, we've gone through that before. When we are allowed to manage our precinct over a period of 17 years or time, we make a better decision than staff does because we have tens of thousands of hours in Precinct 3. So that's something to be considered, including what we have for the losses. We also have on this, we had requested to use unspent salary funds, which is not an unusual request in Bexar County. The item D was how we calculated that figure. And it comes out literally we have that for several years all the way through. The current year is $186,658, which is more than enough to cover the requests that will be coming. We've had up to $300,000 that we've had to turn over in past years and $253,000 in the year prior to that. This proposal that we are going to be proposing later on is a summary. It still makes sense financially for the county in offsetting the costs of law enforcement to those who violate the law rather than putting the burden on taxpayers. There are safeguards to those who may be financially or disparately affected, and I hope I provided those facts. We have 2 judges on the court, plus other court members hear legal advice all the time from Mr. Robertson, so I think that they're aware of these safeguards that are in presently. Alternatively, our budget analyst had suggested was to use unexpended fleet acquisition funds And also an alternative that hasn't been explored that will be is that we can use Transportation Code 542-402 funds, which authorizes the use of traffic fine revenue to fund capital costs, personnel, or maintenance, or to defray the cost of expense of county traffic officers, or to enforce law and regulation and use of highways by let's see. Okay, I think it's back to working now. My apologies for hitting that. Basically, we're only asking for funds in this next ask is for funds that are already allocated to my office in this budget. But there are alternatives I just mentioned. Motorcycles are not new to Precinct 3 or Bexar County. If you wanted a policy, the timing does seem a little bit off when it's proposed only for Precinct 3 or at the time we request motorcycles. The equipment, training, and all that exceeds the current training that are provided to motor officers in Bexar County. The cost factors favor motorcycles by a wide margin. The incidental revenue, as authorized by the legislature, offsets budget shortfalls, and those savings can be funded to other precincts or other critical services that face cuts or being abolished. We're trying to be good citizens, corporate citizens in Bexar County in Precinct 3 by making sure we cover that. This is also a further step in building trust between the court and constables and permitting them the full operational control of their offices, which is what the design was by the Texas Constitution. We all have a lane to be in. It's a tough, you have to manage 5,400 officers or employees in multiple departments, from everything from building maintenance, fleet maintenance, roads and bridges. We would ask you to rely on the people that have that knowledge firsthand on the lowest levels, which we'll be presenting later on in August, preferably on a new ACF. And I hope this information provided some fill-in on some of the questions that came up. If there's any other questions at a future date, let me know, and I'll be happy to take care of the research and present it to you.
Thank you,
Okay. Point of personal privilege only, Commissioner, please.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate this, especially Exhibit A, laying out the answers, I think, effectively on the costs associated with the motorcycles, 35 and 40% less for that motorcycle versus the Tahoe. I support you bringing this back for a fair up or down vote by this court. I think you've effectively answered the questions that the court previously voiced. So thank you.
All right, that concludes Citizen Be Heard. Was there any citizens that signed up that I did not call your name? Hearing none, let's move on. We'll go to individual items. Court, let me alert you. I intend to call those individuals that are not part of executive unless y'all indicate that you wish to hold back on any of them. And then we will, if we finish those, we will then close for executive. I'm proposing we eat lunch during executive as we did last time, and that we continue executive session in the courtroom with our lunch, and subject to counsel and those people that are asked to be part of executive, and then we should be able to come out and close the meeting. If there's no objections, that's what I intend to do. And so I'm alerting the public that we will take up those items that are not part of executive. There are a lot of items that are going to be discussed, and executive could take an extended period of time with those discussions. So, Kate, I need help. I understand 58 is not part, so are we prepared to take 58 up? Staff?
Judge, 57 is not part of executive as well.
57?
Yeah, it's not on there. So I think it starts with 57.
Okay, so is that correct statement? All right, let's take up 57 then. I thought it was executive, but I'll pull it back. It's discussion of appropriate action regarding approval of following actions related to Bexar County out-of-county jail services contracts. A, authorizing Bexar County Judge Peter Sakai to execute a proposed First Amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement between Bexar County and Kerr County for the purpose of reviving the expired agreement, extending its term through June 24, 2026, and direction to staff to place the executed agreement on the next available Commissioners Court agenda following execution for ratification and record filing purposes. And 2D, authorizing Bexar County Judge Peter Sakai to execute a proposed First Amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreement to Bexar County and Burnett County for the purposes of reviving the expired agreement, extending its term through June 24, 2026, and direction to staff to place the executed agreement on the next available Commissioners Court agenda following execution for ratification and record filing purposes. And C, authorizing the county auditor to pay past due FY 26 invoices. And I believe we have corrected amounts that I'll ask Kate to put on record. Once the First Amendment to the interlocal cooperation agreements is approved by each Kerr County and Burnett County, Kate, what are the corrected amounts to the respective counties?
Yes, Judge, we are making a correction to the dollar amounts for 57C. The dollar amount for Kerr County should reflect $383,165, and the dollar amount for Burnett should reflect $1,183,224.17.
Did everybody get those amounts, or do we need to repeat them? All right. Sheriff.
Sir. Well, you'll be pleased to know that we're down to zero population in both of those facilities. But we do, if y'all have any questions regarding the contracts, I brought Chief Jansen up here. He's our resident expert on that topic.
But we're just basically paying past due invoices that
Yes, sir.
are owing, and those counties are expecting payment, correct, Sheriff?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And to clarify, it was at $65 a bed, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I know we met earlier to talk about all the questions I had, so thank you for taking time for that. And I'm glad to know that there are 0 inmates outside of Bexar County right now. So I know as the summer goes, there's different things that happen. There's some construction that we're doing, some electrical work. But I'm glad that this has finally happened. So hopefully we can keep it as low as possible. Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion? All right, Commissioner Moody.
So, clearly I assume that based on the actual billed amounts and underneath C that that's just from the unused capacity that we have had in those 2 counties based on what the contracted beds versus what was actually utilized. Is that correct?
So, I'm sorry, one more time, Commissioner?
Well, because we had budgeted for, was it 4 or 4.5? Okay, and we're obviously coming in underneath that right now. So those were just beds that were contracted but not utilized. We didn't put an inmate in that bed to get the $85 invoice.
Well, I mean, up to this beginning of June, we had inmates there, but all the inmates are now gone. And so with this paid invoice, will be paid up all the way.
And maybe this is the county staff. So the combination of the total cost thus far versus what we had budgeted for, how do those compare?
I believe we budgeted $4.5 million, and I think at the end of this, it'll be $3.8 million.
Okay.
Just off the top of my head. Somewhere.
Yeah. Those were the ballpark numbers that I was aware of too. And so obviously that's a good thing. We haven't utilized as many bed nights as we had expected to. And I think after our previous conversation that we asked for and drove here, we have kind of brought those numbers down with those surrounding counties and tried to minimize the utilization of those outside Bexar County beds, which is a win for Bexar County. And I appreciate the efforts on that front because it's saving taxpayer dollars. It's helping with our budget going forward. I do think, though, that and this will relate to a couple other agenda items that are forthcoming with 63 and 64, but we are still obviously spending tax dollars. I don't think anybody believes that we're not going to have to utilize these contracts going forward because we don't have the capacity and space today. So just highlighting again that, 3.8 is better than 4.5 and a lot better than $7 million spent in this regard, but it's still $3.8 million that come from taxpayers. So over the mid to long term, the problem still exists. We're doing a good job in the short term, I think, of trying to manage this and minimize it, but we can't look the other way over the mid to long term. I know we had the head of the jail commission, previous head of the jail commission for the state of Texas here, and talking about the growth in Bexar County and what the expectations are in 2040. And depending on what you assume the incarceration rate is, that'll be 5,500 to 6,000 inmates. And clearly, we'd need hundreds, if not up to 1,000 additional beds in order to accomplish that task when our county has grown that much. So I hope as we cover these other items, we can continue to dive into these issues that are pressing and are clearly county responsibility. But that's all I have on this side.
Any further comment, questions? Is there a motion? And I think we have to take it, Larry, three motions?
So, yes, Judge, I just want to say on the corrected amounts, can you add up to the corrected amounts? Because they were just submitted to the auditor's office for review, so we want to say up to the amounts, the corrected amounts. If we can add that to the motion.
Any objections on the amendment of 57C for the corrected amounts and to include the language up to those set amounts?
Can Kate read those amounts again, Judge?
All right, Kate, let's get 57C locked down. Let us put the specific amounts and the specific language as recommended by council.
Yes, Judge. So 57C should reflect authorizing the county auditor to pay past due FY26 invoices up to the amount of $383,165 for Kerr County and up to the amount of $1,183,224.17 for Burnett County.
That's the motion. So who moved?
I'd make that
Motion by Commissioner Rodriguez, second by Commissioner Moody. Any further so we're going to take up, what are we going to take up? What was the motion?
Well, we kind of went backwards, but
okay.
we did 57C.
Okay, we're doing 57C. Is it clear on the record, Mr. Roberson? We're taking up 57C with the corrected amount and the corrected language, as moved by Commissioner Rodriguez, second by Commissioner Moody. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Can I have a second motion for 57B? And we'll go backwards.
So moved, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Rodriguez, second by Commissioner Moody. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We will now take up 57A. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Rodriguez, second by Commissioner Moody. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Thank y'all. And so, Mr. Leo Carrera, do you have what you need to take care of our bills with our neighboring counties? Yes, sir. And would you also express our appreciation for their cooperation? And then Thomas, obviously, will be coming back on any new contracts that will be considered. Is that correct? All right. Tell me, so 58, Kate, what are we going to do on presentation, discussion, appropriate action regarding approval of amendment to Administrative Policy 8.1, procurement of goods, commodities, equipment, information technology, professional personal services, maintenance, and construction. Are we moving forward on that? Thomas?
Judge, I think we'd like to defer this item. We need to work a few administrative items on the background, so we'll continue to work with the purchasing agent.
So are we tabling it or just pulling it?
We'll table it. Recommending tabling.
Motion by Commissioner Calvert, second by Commissioner Calvert to table. Any further discussion? All right, we got everybody on 58, which is procurement of goods, communication, equipment, information technology, professional and personal services, maintenance and construction. It was going to be presented by Mr. Galloway. So, No, we're bringing, 59 is not being brought up. It's 58.
Tabling 58.
Right. So who did I hear the motion from?
That was,
Commissioner Calvert, and who second? And second by Commissioner Rodriguez. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to table item 58 signify saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. The table. And can I get a sense or feedback, Thomas or Mr. Galloway? Will this be on the next agenda, or we just don't know at this time?
Judge, I believe we can have this ready by the next court meeting.
I want this issue wrapped up, please. And commissioners, I think y'all's input is important on this particular agenda item. All right, 59, discussion appropriate action authorizing purchase agent to advertise a request for proposal to combine inmate video visitation support services, public coin, and inmate phone services as requested by the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. Mr. Galloway.
Good afternoon, Your Honor, County Commissioners. I am Frederick Galloway, the Bexar County Purchasing Agent. I have with me Ms. Mary Beth Stolte from BCIT, who's worked tirelessly on this agenda item. This one is the inmate video visitation support services and public coin and inmate phone systems, which was a combination, just reminding the court for context, a combination of two services that we've combined into one firm scope of work. There was multiple changes to the scope of work during the process of building this RFP, and we are now ready to move forward, requesting the court's support in moving this RFP forward. We're glad to take any questions or concerns that you may have regarding this particular agenda item.
Commissioner Calvert.
Does this include the tablets? I see in the first page it has it in the scope of work, but...
It does. It does, yes, sir.
Go to the mic, please.
Can you elaborate a little bit more about the tablets and in terms of how many and what the...
I don't actually have the numbers off the top of my head. I know that the BCSO was looking at innovations maybe in the environments for the inmates. So I believe that the tablets were looking to be made available for future use in that.
Each of the kiosks, were there one in each kiosk? I believe there were 64.
Okay, y'all can't have this discussion. You're talking to Mike or pull to the side.
So, Commissioner, there were 60, I believe, and don't hold me to these numbers, but we will get you firm fact. I think there's 64 kiosks, and each one should have the tablet, which would be 64 tablets. I don't know if they buffered in extras for damages or these things. Yes, sir.
Commissioner Moody.
Well, I'm glad to see this item make it back to court. The intent and the background here was obviously trying to save the county money by offering the ability to bundle these services for both the phone and the video services, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
As we've discussed, with that, intent coming from the court, and the idea here would be that as you go forward, trying to provide that flexibility, whether it's bundled or the individual services in a partnership for their solicitation. So I hope we can provide as much flexibility there as possible in order to ensure that we have vendors at the lowest cost to the county that are effective in providing those services.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Galloway, I think the current vendor is, on a month-to-month or some extension. What is your proposed timeline for this RFP?
No longer than 6 months. We're going to do the 30 days host and post. Once we receive the approval, we'll close that down. We'll start the evaluations of the actual proposals and then move forward with the recommendation, bringing that back to Commissioner's Court with the overall scores and the recommendation of the vendor, which meets the best value.
So I think you said no more than 6 months. Is that what you said? Okay. So by the end of the calendar year, I don't want to hold you to that, but your aim is to have some recommendation to the court.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Judge.
Anything else?
Yeah, quick question. So in the meantime, is there a contract month to month?
Yes, Commissioner. Yes, ma'am.
So it already expired and we're just renewing month to month?
We brought that, I believe it was last Commissioner's Court, to extend. So
That's the one that was extended?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right,
ma'am.
thank you. No further questions.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, did I get a motion on the floor? I don't think we did. I need a motion. All right, motion by Commissioner Calvert.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Rodriguez, and we're item 59, correct? Yep. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. All right. I believe the next individual that does not fall in executive is 65. Is that correct? It's 56. Oh, 56? Yeah. No, that's an executive. So I'm pulling up 65, then we'll go to 66, and then we'll go to 67. I believe we will then break for lunch. But we'll continue with executive, so just letting staff know, you may be eating lunch or you may be asked to come in executive, so please confer with staff as to who may be needed for executive session. So taking up item 65, discussion appropriate action regarding, and we have approved late file, correct?
Yes.
So discussion appropriate action regarding approval of request by Commissioner Tommy Calvert to appoint the following individual to the listed board of commissions vacancy for the term specified appears to be Sheriff Civil Service Commission. Peter Vallecillo, Commissioner Calvert.
I'd like to move approval of the applicant.
Motion.
Second.
By Commissioner Calvert, second by Commissioner Rodriguez. Any further discussion? I support this. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. We'll now take up late file 66A. 66A. And corrected in the written agenda, it's listed as 68, so just note the correction. It's discussion appropriate action regarding approval request by Commissioner Justin Rodriguez, and his name needs to be corrected. Little typo. Rodriguez, Precinct 2, to appoint the following individual to the listed board and commission for terms specified. Also, Sheriff Civil Service Commission, Michelle Robledo. Is there a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve, Judge, with the correction to my first name spelling there.
Second.
All right. The motion with the corrected spelling of the name, which is very fundamental, Thomas. So let's not have that happen again. All right. All right. And second by Commissioner Clay Flores. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. Last four individual, and then we'll go to executive, is 67. That has been approved. I believe that needs to also be corrected in the number. 67A, discussion appropriate action regarding approval and execution of professional services agreement between Bexar County and Bexar County Hospital District, DVA University Health, for the county to contribute $1,257,654 in general funds to identify and provide mental health support, divert persons from incarceration, and to facilitate treatment and continuity care upon release into the community. Dr. Guerrero.
Yes, thank you, Judge. Commissioners, this is just to approve the contract for the work that that University Health has been doing in the GIA, which calls for mental health screenings and then mental health assessments under the 1622 process. They've been doing this work since October 1st, and so this is just codifying that work.
All right. Any questions? Commissioner Rodriguez.
I'll make a motion to approve, Judge, but quick question, Doc. So this is part of the intake, is that right, at GIA?
Intake, yes.
So the screening and I guess any assessment done for health reasons is now being done by University Health, or it's been done by University Health. So
Yes.
this is just covering that contract. Has it been not quite a year? Or is
No,
this
it's been since October 1st is
Since
when they took
October.
over operations, yes.
Okay, great. Motion approved, Judge.
Motion by Commissioner Rodriguez.
I'll second that. Thank you for meeting with me earlier, or was it last week? Last week to discuss some of the questions I had about that. So let's push forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Moody.
Just a couple questions. Sue, you said October 1st was when UH took the reins there.
Yes.
Was there background or reasoning for, obviously it's been, 8-9 months now?
Yeah, so originally this is budgeted for $4.8 million in previous years that encompassed not just the mental health assessments, but diversion work and some other programs that were being conducted by CHCS. We wanted to offer a period of transition with CHCS to hash out some of the other pieces of that contract that excluded the mental health assessments. That took several months, and we were not able to come to terms with them, and so we kind of had to wait a few months so that we would know kind of what we were able to budget for just the mental health assessment piece.
Okay. And is anybody from UH here?
They're not. Yeah, we've been back and forth, but because the fluid nature of the agenda today, they had some other meetings they had to attend to at UH.
Okay. Obviously, it's probably a broader discussion with UH leadership, but I guess a question, to county staff again is that the medical health assessments and health care that's provided within the jail, is there any reimbursement policy with UH for any of the medical care they provide our inmates?
It's not a contract within my department. I defer to county staff.
I believe we have a contract with UHS for that.
Okay.
And yeah, for medical care. I don't think we pay for that.
Okay. I guess I've never seen that come across in court.
I think that's an old contract. I don't have a copy, but I could do the research for you on that.
What contract do you mean? You mean a contract directly with UHS?
What my point that I'm trying to get at is the traditional medical care versus mental health care, and whether we are paying for one but not the other, because we've talked a lot in this court about mental health care is medical care, right? And why are we differentiating the two? That's the point of my question.
Oh, well, keep in mind that the UHS is the county hospital, so I think their specialty is medical care, not necessarily mental health care. We have a local mental health authority. We don't have a contract with UHS. They were created pursuant to an election, and they're taxed. The residents are taxed for that care that they provide, that indigent care, which includes detainees in the mostly, and I think they cover all that care. There's not a contract for that.
Well, it's funny that you're mentioning the mental health authority, but at the same time we're utilizing UH now going forward for those mental health care services in the jail. I think it's something we can take up offline directly with UH, but I just think it's something we should explore in conversations going forward.
Well, you have to understand the specific responsibilities of those entities. UHS has a duty. The LMHA does not necessarily have that specific duty as far as vis-a-vis the jail. So you have to keep their actual responsibilities in mind when you're considering those, because UHS has a specific obligation to treat indigent persons in Bexar County because they are supported by tax revenue. So just keep that in mind, that their specific obligations are very different. So they're funded by the LMHA is funded by the state, whereas the UHS is funded directly with tax dollars of people living in Bexar County. So just there's quite a bit of reasoning behind why they do what they do and how they do it. So just part of the record.
I think fundamentally, historically, we've looked at mental health care separate from physical health care, but those lines are going away. So anyway, it's worth future discussions.
I do. Dr. Guerrero, to understand the contract, and we've had a brief discussion from a legal perspective, but just in functionality and what it means, and we've had comments today, public comments, about how services are delivered at the jail or lack of services. And so we need to be very careful with this as we look at the whole process in regards to how things are handled at the jail. And I think, Mr. Roberson, we will have that discussion in executive. But I want to focus in on what we're doing today. This agenda item focuses on the expert screening for mental health, behavioral health, and intellectual and developmental disabilities, often called the IDD patients or people incarcerated because of their disability. Is that correct?
Yes, although IDD is covered under a separate contract with ACOG, but for this is specific to mental health services, and there is some level of substance use screening that is also performed by staff.
So the purpose of this agenda item, for purposes of payment to UHS, is to the result of the programs to identify individuals at jail intake who are eligible for relevant diversion programs, correct?
Yes.
And we know that, 60,000 people who come to the jail each year, I mean, they're coming in and out, and they're probably duplicated with people that continue to go in and out. Only a fraction is eligible for diversion programs, correct?
Yes.
So it's very crucial that this program be very succinct, concise, in order to truly create a diversion program for people at the jail, correct?
Yes.
And this is backed up not because of what you or the court wants, but this was a recommendation by Dr. Testa and the report we continue to rely upon on the GIA, which is the whole magistration system, and you've heard comments about that in regards to how. So this ultimately streamlines screenings, enhances diversion. Is that a correct statement?
Yes.
And I want to go on record, even though they're not here, but is Ed Banis for his leadership in University Health, and we have ongoing discussions of how the operations at the jail are happening even at this time, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
And I also want to thank you, Dr. Andrea Guerrero, for your leadership with the Bexar County Public Health Department. Although we've had this discussion of mental health and medical support, the reality is we're dealing with the same person. And so what we have found and what we're hoping to accomplish at some point is the integration of all those services so that all these services don't live in silos, which creates gaps, and sometimes people fall in the gaps and they don't get the services they need because the systems, the silos, the bureaucracies don't talk to each other. Is that a true statement?
Yes, it has been an issue in the past and has been cited as a barrier, yes.
So what would you say succinctly today? Short sentence here, Ms. Dr. Guerrero. I know you like to explain it. What are you trying to accomplish through the Public Health Department in regards to the issues there at the jail without getting to any specific?
Sure.
Give me an overall, high-level statement.
Specific to this contract, the critical finding that you spoke about with Dr. Testa's evaluation was the recommendation that medical care and mental health screening and assessment be brought under one provider, specifically to address gaps in communication, siloed services, because it would create a more efficient process so that folks would have greater access to mental health assessment and then subsequently diversion and appropriate care once they leave the jail.
All right. Any further discussion? Who moved on this one? Motion by Commissioner Rodriguez. Second by Commissioner Clay Flores. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstention? Motion carries. One more time, staff, is there, I believe we have concluded all those items except for those that will be discussed in executive. Before we do that, let me alert staff that we have councils that are on retainer and they're getting paid to sit here. I believe we have 2 agenda items that have that dynamic. So I'm going to ask Larry, in regards to executive, can you kind of line them up and tell me which ones we need to? But I would like to get the lawyers out of here so that I can stop the clock. Sorry, Bill, but I want to have you compensated, but I need you in those. I need the legal advice and not you there. So Larry, can you give some direction before we close for executive? Speaking of Mike. What was that? 70? Oh, okay, got it. Let me now take up item 7. I need a. Okay, 70 is pursuant to section 551.0725, deliberations regarding contract being negotiated. A, to deliberate business and financial issues related to negotiated development agreement, similar document proposed to be negotiated between Bexar County, Texas Political Subdivision and Coliseum Advisory Board, San Antonio Livestock Exposition, Inc., a Texas not-profit corporation related to the redevelopment, revitalization of the Freeman Coliseum Complex grounds and facility, so long as before convening the closed meeting, 1, the court votes unanimously that deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the Commissioners Court negotiations with third persons, and 2, the attorney advising the court issues a written determination that deliberation in an open meeting would have a detrimental effect on the position of the court in negotiations with third persons. In regards to agenda item 70, can I have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Calvert. Second by Commissioner Clay Floyd. All those in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Do we have a unanimous vote for you, Mr. Roberson? I don't know. All right. All right. So let me also put in the record, the court will now convene the executive session. Executive session items may be discussed and acted upon appropriate in open session. Pursuant to section 551071 of the Texas Government Code, executive session will be held for consultation with the court's attorney for advice regarding A, pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers in the matters of Ledesma and Guerrero versus Bexar County and Gonzalez versus Bexar County. B, a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body and the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, specifically 1, legal issues related to a request by the Bexar County Appraisal District for Bexar County to intervene in pending litigation related to a suit filed by BCAD alleging a failure by certain housing finance corporations operating in Bexar County to maintain tax exemptions required by Texas law. 2, legal issues related to the receipt of a notification of appointment of a court coordinated demand for release of funds by judges of the 225th and 285th District Courts, as well as consideration of the potential staffing resources needs of the remaining 12 civil district court judges. 3, legal issues related to a collective bargaining agreement with the Deputy Sheriff's Association of Bexar County, entered into pursuant to Chapter 174 of the Local Government Code. 4, legal issues related to the redevelopment and renovation of the South Beach Pavilion facility located at Fort Sam, Houston, Joint Base San Antonio, in support of the Defense Health Agency. 5, legal issues related to processing or housing of detainees at the Bexar County Detention Center and pending cases naming Bexar County or the Bexar County Sheriff in his official capacity as a defendant. I believe we have taken up the matter in regards to the Coliseum Advisory Board, San Antonio Livestock Exposition, and the court has voted unanimously. So at this time, the time is 11:51. The court is open, court is closed. Larry, who do you want in regards to certain agenda items?
So we're going to do 70 first.
We're going to do 70 first. David,
with counsel from
the Houston lawyers.
And then we're going to do the judges second,
The-
because that's Bill Christian.
Then we're doing the judges, and who needs to be in there besides you?
So, Judge, I'm going to request that each commissioner's chief of staff be included in the conversation, not in the conversation, but to actually observe, since that's the policy normally in the court. I think this issue, they should hear this conversation.
Which item?
The 225th, 285th.
No,
No.